So today, I'm the bearer of some bad news. My generation and those before me have set up each and every one of you in this room to inherit one of the greatest debt crises the world has ever known. So I'm not talking about our massive financial debt. I'm not even talking about the mess that we've made of our planet. We're on the verge of a diversity debt crisis. Okay, so that's some heavy news. So let me break this down just a little bit. Years ago, I started day trading stocks to pay my way through school. As a new trader, I sought advice from people much more experienced than myself, and the advice that I received from them was to make sure that I built myself a diversified portfolio. So while approaches to trading vary, having a diversified portfolio remains fairly common advice. So a diversified portfolio means that you invest your money, your things, in a bunch of different places. Instead of putting all of my eggs in one basket, I spread my eggs throughout a bunch of different baskets. Yet, for some reason, this long-standing financial advice hasn't found its way across all of the business world. So, what happens when we start to think about the actions and the decisions of a company, of an innovation, of a technology as building diversity debt? So, do I have any Snapchat users in the room? Maybe you can show me how to use it later. Well, just earlier this year, Snapchat accrued quite a bit of diversity debt when they turned users' selfies into Asian caricatures, and they promoted digital blackface through a Bob Marley filter. Do I have any iPhone users in the room? Yeah, iPhone Club. Cool. Well, Apple accrued some diversity debt a few years ago when they forgot about women's reproductive health in the initial launch of their Health Kit app. They forgot to track women's menstrual cycles. How did Snapchat bring filters that promoted digital blackface and digital yellowface to their millions and millions of users? And how did Apple forget about women's reproductive health in the initial launch of the Health Kit app? Well, if we take a look at tech startups, there's a few common reasons why this happens. So let's look at an example. This is Bill and Ted. They had a big idea. They built a really cool dating app. The app seemed to work pretty well. People were using the app, and then they realized they needed to hire a few new people. So they hired a few of their friends. The app continued to do well. People were actually loving it, and they were growing really fast. So they needed to hire a few more people. Bill and Ted hired about 4 more of their friends from college, as well as a woman named Gina, who had reached out to them. Things were going really well for Bill and Ted and their team. Ka-ching, okay? They were moving fast, life was good. Until a few months later, Gina, who was the only woman on their team, Gina started to feel uncomfortable because one of her male coworkers had made a few comments to her about her sexual preferences. A few months later, Gina decided to leave the company. So Bill and Ted hired a few more women over the course of the next few months, but they left as well. So pretty quickly, Bill and Ted realized that the people who looked, felt, and thought differently than themselves didn't want to be part of their company. So what happened? Well, from the start, Bill and Ted hired the people that they knew, okay? They hired their friends. And to be really clear, this is quite common. In fact, studies of the brain indicate that we're unconsciously drawn to people who look, feel, and think much like ourselves. And so what do? Well, we build homogenous companies, meaning we build companies where most of the people look, feel, and think pretty similarly. And this puts companies at a huge disadvantage because people like Gina don't want to be there. They don't feel comfortable. And this means that without a diversity of people, perspectives, and experiences, an app like Bill and Ted's suffered. It didn't do well. So according to the Tech Levers study, this whole problem of not being able to retain diverse talent in tech is a $16 billion problem. So $16 billion, that's a lot of money. That's like 16 million iPhones. And this problem of diversity debt is even more critical for us to think about given the rise of the innovation economy. The innovation economy is really, really exciting. Things are moving faster than they've ever moved before. We can have more impact than we've ever been able to have. But at the same time, if we're not thoughtful about what we do and how we build this innovation economy, the risks are also so much greater. Right now, we can't even predict what the world will look like and how fast things will continue to evolve over the next 10 years. So why am I telling you this? Well, if we don't have a diversity of people, perspectives, and their experiences shaping the rise of this innovation economy, we might build a future that actually doesn't bring us all forward. So what if we build a future that doesn't meet your needs? Or what if we build a future that everyone can't have access to? And what if we build a future that actually harms you or the people in your life that you love and care for? I work with companies around the world, tech companies, to help them address their diversity debt. And I will always remember the day that I learned that I had to do this work. So it was about 7 years ago. I was just starting my Ph.D. So I learned that car accidents are the leading cause of fetal death related to maternal trauma. So this means that when a person who is pregnant gets into a car crash, even a relatively minor car crash, the likelihood of that person losing their unborn child is really, really high. So this really bothered me, and I had to learn more. So as a PhD student, I did a ton more research. And I discovered that the reason this was happening is because in the automotive industry, male-bodied crash test dummies are used as the norm or the default for all of their crash test safety testing. So this means that they hadn't thought about different bodies, a diversity of sizes and shapes. And seatbelts weren't safe for everyone, particularly pregnant bodies. So this was the moment when I realized that the automotive industry was drowning in diversity debt. And I knew that the automotive industry was not alone in this. So it was this day as well that I also realized that a diversity of people, perspectives, and experiences needed to be around every single table, no matter what it is that you were designing or doing or trying to build in this world. That was about 7 years ago, and now things are moving faster than they've ever moved before. So that means it's going to take each and every one of us in this room collectively to shape the future of innovation, to manage the disruption that comes with it. And we need to think about this through the decisions that we make each and every day as students, as citizens, as consumers, as investors, whatever it may be. So here's 3 things that you can do right now to start to shift this. So the first is be a conscious consumer. So whether that's when you're buying a new piece of technology or you're downloading a new app, be critical of it. Is that new piece of technology useful? Is it accessible to folks? Does it harm anyone? Does that new app actually bring value to the world? Do you need it? I don't know. Think about it though. The next thing you can do is share your feedback. Okay, so earlier this year when Snapchat found themselves building some diversity debt, they heard about it. They heard about it from users just like you. And guess what? They addressed the problem. They thoughtfully built out new procedures to make sure that filters like that never land in your hands on your phone ever again. And Apple did the exact same thing. Okay, they heard their customers, they heard that feedback, and in their iOS 9 update, I believe it was, they made sure to reflect women's reproductive health in the Health Kit app, right? And this is because feedback of people like you, they heard it and they reflected it, okay? And the last piece of feedback, be the leader that others need. So be better than Bill and Ted, right? So when you lead, whether you're leading a sports team or you're starting your own company and you have a startup, I want you to be a leader who values different people, their experiences, and their perspectives. Think about how you can be a leader that makes certain that everyone feels included, and think about how you can lead in a way that helps others to really, really feel that they belong. So I believe that Canada can really lead the way in this regard. I think that Canada can be a leader and tackle all of the existing diversity debt that we have. And I think that if we work together, a diversity of people, perspectives, and experiences, that we can make sure that we don't build any more diversity debt going forward. So they say that the best way to predict the future is to create it. So my question to you is, what will your contribution be? Thank you.